So I think we did one curve shift here. And I'm gonna go ahead and, just because it's on the other side, I'll do the 2 curve shifts. I just wanna make sure this is where I'm at, so that I don't skip over something that I should have covered. Our test is Wednesday. I did put the review sheet up, and I wanna pull that up also today and go over it. I gotta talk about some things on it. But I need to finish the illustration here first. There are four different possibilities of the shifting of the curves for the supply and demand, and what I'm looking for is the resulting effects of the price in equilibrium quantity. Where it is right now, where it's intersecting, that's the current equilibrium price and quantity. I want to know what happens at the end of the shifting of the curve. So there's going to be two curves shifting. So there's 4 different possible combinations. I didn't do this, did I? No? Okay. All right, and like I had done the other day, I'm going to use up arrow for increase, down arrow for decrease. That indicates that I'm going to be shifting the curve. If it's increase, it'll be shift to the right, decrease, shift to the left. So in the first scenario, demand increases, supply increases. I want to know what happens to price and quantity. So what happens to the price and quantity, equilibrium price and quantity? So you shift the curve, demand will increase, shift to the right, that's an increase. It's nothing fancy about it. You don't have to shift it. I try to tell people, somebody came up the other day and said, well, what happens when you have an up arrow? It's just an increase, just shift to the right. I don't care how far you shift it, just shift it. Sketch it in on the test. If I don't have a question with a graph already on it, and there are many of them like that, some of them have graphs already, but most of them don't. So you can sketch it there off to the right, off to the side of the paper. Just, you can write all over the test. So that's an increase in demand. Supply increases also, so that's going to be a shift to the right. Use green for that. And there's where the new intersection now is. So forget the black intersection there with the original dot. The new equilibrium now is where the green and the blue lines intersect. What happened to quantity? Got bigger, didn't it? Okay? And there's nothing else that can happen. It's got to get bigger. Both curves shifted to the right. So equilibrium quantity got to go up. What about price?
Went up too.
It looks like it went up. I'll give you that. Based on how I drew it, based on how I shifted the curve. However, what I'm going to want you to answer on the test is indeterminate. I mean, that's the word that I think the textbook used. Sometimes I use the word uncertainty because you don't know what happened to the price unless you had all the data and you plotted every point on that line, and you could tell me with accuracy what it did, when it went up or it went down. It basically says if the demand curve outshifted the supply, yeah, price would go up like it did here. But what if supply outshifted some demand? What if the supply curve shifted way out here? Then the price would go down. So you don't know for sure. So I want you to answer indeterminate. What symbol would I give? Just a dash. The dash will represent unknown or indeterminate or uncertain. I don't care what word you use. The last slide of the notes here, the final one, actually does this little summary. I mean, it tells you it's a matrix. It kind of summarizes all of that. So you have two curves shifting it, going up. The quantity will go up. Price is unknown. We don't know what that will be. The second scenario is what happens if demand decreases and supply decreases. And what happens to price and quantity? Well, again, we'll shift the demand curve. We'll use blue for demand. Demand will shift to the left. That's a decrease. And the supply curve will shift to the right, or to the left, sorry. So they both decrease. That means it shifts to the left of both. There's my new equilibrium now. What happened to quantity?
Decrease.
Quantity went back to this new amount. It's definitely decreasing. No other way, no other thing it's going to do. It's got to go down. What about price?
Indeterminate?
It's going to be an indeterminate again, an unknown result. We don't know. It looks like it went up. I get that. But on a test question, I'm going to want you to put where the dash is. I'm going to have a question. I'm going to have an answer with a dash. You'll see it. That's my symbolism. The dash means indeterminate or unknown. Because you don't know the magnitude of the shift. You don't know how far out it shifted one way or another. So whenever you have the curves, and it's kind of a pattern here, whenever you have two of the curves going the same way, quantity goes in the same direction, and you don't know the price. I don't know if you can remember it that way, but some people do. We'll kind of get this pattern, you know, with up arrows and down arrows. All right, the last two examples, I'm going to kind of talk about two real-world things that occurred. The one on the left is an example of what happened in real estate in the mid-2000s, around 2005, 6, somewhere around there, where demand increased. People were buying real estate and homes very quickly, but supply decreased. So what happened to the price and quantity? Well, again, the original price and quantity is here. If demand increased, and let's just say in real estate, people were buying homes like crazy, you know, real estate, property, in the mid-2000s. But the supply wasn't able to keep up. Builders were building, but they weren't able to keep up with the demand. The supply actually fell, so I'm going to shift it back. Let's go back about that far. That's good enough. So the new equilibrium now is here. What happened to the price?
It looks like it went up.
And if you think back to that time frame, if you're old enough to remember, you know, what was happening in the mid-2000s with real estate, gosh, it's been 8 or 9 years now, that prices went crazy. Prices went up. Homes that were once $150,000 were being appraised and sold for $400,000. Here locally, mine was an example. I got it appraised at $430. And I go, my home's not worth $430. It was then. I could have got that probably. I mean, for sale signs that people wanted to sell their home. You put a for sale sign up, and within a week, you probably had an offer on it. That meant the supply was very limited. If you're in real estate, you know the word inventory. the inventory of homes was very limited. Once the for sale sign went up, people got an offer, it was off the market. Today, not the same phenomenon going on. So what happened was prices went up. Another part of this story too is I lived in Lakewood Ranch at the time, and I went to one of their new developments. At the time, it was Greenbrook. They were developing it a little bit further out east on 70. Went into the showroom there in the sales office, and the lady said that I had, in order to get my name on the list, just on the list, I had to put $10,000 down deposit. I'm not kidding you. And I went, what? I'm not giving you $10,000 just for the benefit of putting my name down, privilege of putting my name on your list. That's how nuts it was. People who really were serious about buying and wanted to purchase in that area had to put $10,000 down. I'll bet they're not doing that now. I'll bet they're hoping to get a buyer that walks in the door that's qualified. It was a weird market back then. Don't know if you'll ever see it again that crazy. And it wasn't just Florida, it was other parts of the country. Las Vegas, Nevada, those areas too. So prices went up dramatically. Then around 2009, 10, and 11, prices started to fall. And this was the illustration here. Demand fell. Okay? People stopped buying. Now there were reasons why too. The economy began to slow down in 2007, late 2007. And we entered a recession actually. I believe it was December of 2007. Well, demand started to fall. Banks began to get tighter in their regulations for lending, which is even tighter today. As of January 1, 2014, bank regulations now for home loans are a little bit stricter than they have been. They have been pretty bad. But in order to get a home loan, you're going to have to probably have a pretty good down payment, certainly a fairly steady job. So they want to, you need to support the debt. You probably need to stay within their percentages of what you can afford per month, principal, interest, and taxes. All of that needs to be within a, 40% or less for payment. And it just is getting tougher. But what happened here, demand went down, supply increased. Now that doesn't mean, when people get that confused, when supply increased, builders start building more? No. What happened was the for sale signs went in the yard, they stayed in the yard. So the inventory of homes or the supply of homes just stayed up there. Realtors would talk about how there was a year and a half worth of inventory still in the market that they had to sell, they had to get rid of. And there's still a lot of for sale signs out. Now many of those homes now, a lot of them are foreclosed upon. Banks have now got them back. They've foreclosed on the owner, or short sold them, or trying to short sell. So demand fell, just kind of dried up. You didn't have as many buyers. Supply increased. Oh, you know what? I didn't finish this, but I'll get back to it. Supply increased, and now we had a new equilibrium here. And again, which I didn't finish there, price and quantity, what happened was that price fell. So price went down. Now to complete both sides here, this is another one that you're going to have an unknown factor. So quantity now is the unknown or indeterminate. You don't know what the quantity would be. And again, this is equilibrium quantity. Likewise with here, you don't know the equilibrium quantity when demand increased, supply decreased, demand decreased, supply increased, and then the price went down. So equilibrium quantity is unknown. The reason equilibrium quantity is unknown because again, you don't know the magnitude of the shift. You shifted this further out, equilibrium quantity might increase. The only thing I know is the price in the town here. Think about it. If the demand dries up, but the supply is increasing, there's too many out there, there's not enough buyers, price is falling. They're just got to. So this was kind of a real life situation that occurred in real estate. The market, real estate market, it depends on who you talk to. If you talk to a realtor, they're going to be very positive, very upbeat that the real estate market is beginning to turn around. You know, there's an upward swing on prices and sales. I think if you talk to economists, statisticians, you know, that might not paint such a rosy picture. I mean, there's price increases, but they're very small. Pockets of the United States, they're seeing sell. And I do know this: building construction has picked up. Have you noticed that? Homes. I mean, the county commission here in Manatee County have approved many subdivisions here in the local county for starting construction. I've driven by a few roads. Upper Manatee River Road's got a couple going. Rye Road, I think, has got another 600 home development started, or beginning to start. And I wonder, though, I'm skeptical, how many buyers are coming into Florida? There are going to be 600 new families? I guess so. I guess there's prediction. And I'm just saying Bradenton. Florida, a bigger state. There's other pockets, there's other areas of Florida that I'm sure building is going on too. I guess predictions and estimates are that the population is growing, people are moving to Florida. And so therefore, they can justify approving subdivisions to build homes. You build 600 new homes, that means 600 people got to qualify for them, unless they got cash, which I doubt very seriously they're all going to have cash. You might have a few that have cash to buy the home. But they're going to have to borrow money. So the banks are then going to have to go through the process of obtaining a loan. A little more difficult now. It really is. I'm not trying to scare you off, but if you got a steady job and you got a decent down payment, you probably will be okay, and your credit score is good. I mean, you can have those first two things, and your credit score is like 400. Forget it. You know, but if your credit score, I think, is over 680, your 680 is okay. Kind of like their low end. 720, anything over 700, 720, 750 would be a pretty good credit score, and certainly anything over 800 would be pretty good on that one. Anyhow, so this is two curve shifting. So whenever you have two curve shifts, you're going to always have one of the components that's an unknown. All right, so here's the last few slides. The next two slides are just nothing more than another illustration. This one, it was a one curve shift that we had the other day, where the supply curve shifted back to the left. I believe it was the one on this right here at the bottom right, the one I drew here that day. And this one is large increase. This was the third one here. This was this one. Okay, a large increase in demand, a small decrease in supply. Now they did say in this slide, I think this one came out of your book, one possible outcome would be that price rises. I don't want you to do that. I want you to say that you don't know the price, or you do know the price, I'm sorry, you don't know the quantity. Quantity is an unknown, so you put a dash. And so this last slide is, which is in your book. I believe this matrix here is in your book. These are a matrix, a change in demand, here's a change in supply. If demand increases, supply increases, this is what happens. And that's that upper left one. Equilibrium quantity increases, price change is indeterminate. If demand decreases and supply decreases, this is what happens. Quantity decreases, change in price is indeterminate. That's the one on the far upper right. And then the ones here on these quadrants are the ones where they go in the opposite direction. If you like that matrix, fine. I'll put it up there. It's actually the one that came out of the book, I believe. So it's a summary chart. You'll have questions on the test that will pertain to, kind of like that real estate example. You may not have a drawing, a graph that I've already put on there, but you can do it yourself. Just sketch it in. That's really the only way I tell people how to do it. I mean, don't get fancy with it. Just shift it to the right and shift it to the left. All right, so that's the last slide.